I think we're good. I think we are. I don't know.
I hope so.
We're just trying. What is this?
We were watching skate videos.
We were. Is that what you want to watch?
I don't know. Let's have you make the first pick of the night, Elliot.
There's so much gnarly, heavy stuff that immediately comes to mind. I don't know. Let's watch some skate stuff just 'cause we're here and keep it light for a second before talking about some more serious issues at large in the world.
That sounds pretty good.
I mean, obviously George Floyd's memorial. The 1-year anniversary of his murder was, I think, yesterday, right?
Yeah,
and
it was
then
yesterday.
the ceasefire just happened in Gaza, exactly like we were talking about before. They're just gonna like do some real gnarly shit for a short period of time, and just like I don't know, I saw some headline. It was like 400,000, like this 11 days of bombardment by Syria, a nuclear armed state, against Palestine in occupied territory. Left like 400,000 people without access to clean water. And it's just like, you look at how small the area of Gaza is, how many people are there. It's just, I don't know, it's heartbreaking. So before we get into that.
Yeah, and I remember very clearly at one point I came across this book called The New Art of War, which was about how like the Israeli Defense Force like literally was taking like post-structuralist and like high-end theory from like academia and using it to like construct its attacks against Palestinian settlements. Like,
yeah,
and it's really intense to think of like how calculated the apparatus is that is like trying to. This is them minimizing casualties. This is their calculated risk. These are the acceptable collateral damages. Like that is their
minimizing and maximizing casualties. They're like maximizing what they're getting away with as much as they can in as short a period as possible. Because they know that public global opinion, they kept it up, was really gonna maybe culminate in some actual accountability. Who knows? And so it's like a little bit of time, a little bit of brutality, touch of brutality, but in the context of a sustained occupation, which is brutality in and of itself. So it's just like these like the level of brutality is always like here, and then it's just these spikes. Anyways.
Yeah, no, but it's like definitely targeted against critical infrastructure to make sure that like day-to-day life they're rebuilding from square one again. Like
schools, hospitals, critical infrastructure, like you said.
Yeah.
Anyways, messed up stuff. I don't know. What do you want to watch?
Skate videos. Something funny really quick. Like it's not just.
I'm trying to think of like a classic funny skate video or skate video part. Have you seen the intro to Mouse?
No, type that shit.
That's great. Mouse, girl skateboards. Hold on. This video was the shit when it first came out. Just watch the whole thing, and it's the intro. Full screen that shit.
Man, this is an oldie.
Oh yeah, like 96 or something. I'm old, bro. I started skateboarding in like 96. No, I started skateboarding in 94.
Do you know what I started doing in 94?
What? Being born?
No, I was.
You were 3, right?
Yeah. Probably started talking about.
I was 12. This is so funny. Shit sound. Sorry. The intentionally bad graphics. Spike Jonze made this. The famous filmmaker now.
What?
Yeah. He got started as a skate photographer. An escape filmographer. Number. Can we turn this up?
Yes, it is.
I guess it's a magic number.
Somewhere in the ancient mystic Trinity.
Watched this skate video so many times when I was growing up.
As a magic number. The past and the present and the future. Faith and hope and charity. The heart and the brain and the body.
That's Mike Carroll, pro skater, and the guy in the suit is Rick Howard. Both two were those two of my
It takes 3 legs to make a tripod or to make a table stand.
Moving the mouse.
It takes 3 wheels to make a vehicle called a tricycle. Every triangle has 3 corners. Every triangle has 3 sides. No more, no less. You don't have
skate videos are works of art, dude. There's another part in here. Rick Howard's part in the forest. You gotta watch that.
Film beat now because I was trying to set up for a joke about furry acceptance.
About what?
Furry acceptance.
Yes, they did.
Ahead of its time, man.
That's a magic number.
Yeah, you can see Spike Jonze's future.
I think this is a false representation of
12, 15,
I've never seen a sound.
21, 24, 27.
He's bad because he's waiting on this guy to come pick him up.
3, 6, 9.
This guy's out skating.
12, 15,
Not
18,
following the plot.
21, 24,
Too
27.
busy criticizing.
He like real life scares.
Now the multiples of 3 come up 3 times in each set of 10. In the first 10, you get 3, 6, 9, and in the teens 10, it's 12, 15, and 18. And in the 20s, you get a 21, 24, 27, and it comes out even on 30. Yeah.
Now multiply backwards from 3 times 10.
3 times 10 is 30.
Oh no!
3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12. And 3 times 3 is 9. And 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 1 is 3, of
This is
course.
like a classic
Now
like
dig the pattern
70s
much more. 3,
3, 6, 9,
low key like I don't know. It's just
12,
like goofy
15,
stuff.
18,
21.
It's like
21,
teach kids
24,
about multiples of
27,
three, you know.
30.
It was probably like
30.
Sesame Street or 3
Now
to 1
multiply
Contact.
from
or
10
something like that.
backwards.
3 times 10 is 30.
You should not
3
feel like a
times
big
9
biology
is
cult.
27. 3
Pretty sure,
times
but
8
I
is
could be wrong.
3 times 7 is
You know, it's on that
Old
new
Joey
age
Division
70s,
song.
like Power of 3.
3
Yeah.
times 5 is 15.
But it's some cheesy
3 times
classic.
4 is
Yeah,
12.
from the
3
70s.
times 3
Oh man, and then I think Jaron Wilson has the first part, if I recall. Oh no, yeah, Jaron Wilson has the first part. The soundtrack to this whole video is amazing. We won't. The whole video is like 20 minutes, so we're gonna skip ahead to Jaron. This is just like OG LA goodness, man. And again, the soundtrack to this whole video is amazing. Like I don't know if Spike Jonze filmed all the skating necessarily, but I'm sure he's filmed some of it. But he definitely acknowledged was like the director of the film and like the skits and all that kind of stuff. It's actually a pretty short part, but anyways. It's got this. I want to watch this whole video. There's the oh man, the Venice stuff. Oh man, sorry, I'm just like peeking through here. Yeah, they've got these like crazy beats. This whole video is classic. Keenan, man. Passed tragically. They got this helicopter skit. Yeah, Rick Howard McCarroll. This is what I'm talking about. We're gonna watch this next. All right. Dig
Okay.
this. The whole video is good. Go back and watch the whole thing, but just for the sake of time, we only want to do this for an hour. I don't want to spend the whole time
It's
watching
cool
this
that
video.
this shit's like on YouTube.
It's amazing. We did not have this when I was a kid coming up at all. Like at
Did
all.
you walk to school and stuff?
Uphill both ways. Not quite that bad, but we didn't have none of this. That's for sure. No smartphones. People are like, you didn't. Where's all the You don't have footage from you skating growing up? I'm like, bro, like you had to have like $1,000 for a fucking video for like a Sony like you know VX1000 or whatever with a fisheye. It was like another $200. Nobody had that shit when we were growing up. This is one of my favorite film like sequences and skateboarding sequences combined. Just gonna let everybody enjoy this in silence.
How does one skateboard in the box?
I think there may well be some sheets of plywood involved. He's got one of the sickest little like. Wonder who that background track is. I think Costin's part is next. God, this video is just like from beginning to end. Just every part is good. Every song is good. Funny sketches. Anyway, we don't gotta watch this.
I have something.
What do you want to tune into? People should definitely go back and watch this video though. It's a classic. And it stands the test of time. Like this video is a classic still today. There's no like, oh well, it's outdated. Like this is just a good video, man. Even still, 25 years later. What is this?
I need to find the right page. But there are certain Reddit ones that are just fucking great.
All right, guess we're staying on the goofy tip.
No, some of them are actually kind of serious.
Yeah, Reddit gets pretty real, man. Reddit can get pretty raw. Gets pretty raw at times. Also, this Pepe bullshit. The internet is such a it's such a cesspool in so many ways.
Oh, dude,
Let's check. Hold on. Let's check our screen to make sure we're looking okay. Yeah, I think we're looking okay. See if we're getting any update. Do we have? Okay, anyway. See if there's. Let us know if there's any issues. If anybody's listening. I think we got one person, maybe two.
This one was kind of funny, but we can find some of the more serious ones.
Which
There's like
celebrity has blocked you on social media and why?
Oh, this is like
Dane
that
Cook
one that
blocked
you
me on
sent me.
Twitter.
The one you sent me was kind of funny. The dumb question one or something. Like, what's the stupidest question you've ever heard?
Yeah, I think I found another one too that was actually hella depressing, which was like r/historians, like what's the most depressing fact you know? And
Oh, we should totally look at that one because I'd love to chime in on that. I mean, we could. I mean, either that. You want to go straight to that one, or yeah? I mean, this could be dumb and funny too, but I don't know. We're just gonna whatever. Because this could be kind of funny. Let's see if there's anything good. We don't got to watch all 22 minutes. Let's just watch a minute or two and see if there's anything
He
good.
tweeted something along the lines of, "Sometimes no matter what you do, you can't win." And I replied, "Did you make another movie?" Insta-blocked. What a Dane Cook thing to do. I remember someone saying they got
That's kind of funny.
blocked by Hulk Hogan for telling him he doesn't need to sign his tweets off with HH. I get why you wouldn't want to write HH, because of the whole angry mustache man debacle, or for degenerates. Hente Haven. I tweeted the Hulk once and he liked and retweeted it. I flew close to the sun that day.
so if I play one of these and my daughter hears it, she freaks the fuck out. The robot voice just like scares.
Oh, like that's not him. Because
William
for context, your daughter is how old?
She's about to turn 3.
Yeah, there we go. But I understand why that would creep her out. It creeps me out. This dude, I was like, right away. Anyways, yeah.
Shatner. I tweeted him what's going on. Slick Willy? Apparently, he does not like being called Slick Willy Mayo. Wow, William Shatner apparently out here just blocking people. That's 2 people in one post. I wonder how many others are blocked by Ol Slick. I knew a girl who was blocked by him in grade school because she asked him if when he went to the bathroom he became William Schnair, or something to that effect. William Shatner. I brought up Tech War. When my dad worked as Tsar, he got to have the privilege and honor of screening William Shatner. Shatner did not want to be screened, and tried to skip it, complaining and such about the whole procedure. And when a Tsar officer informed him that no matter who you are, Tsar screens everybody, he scoffed and said, "That's absurd. Tsar screens everybody." As Pendulet learned the hard way, Shatner apparently blocks a lot of people, especially if they bring up red letter media. Not a celebrity, but Ford blocked me on Twitter cause I kept asking them to bring the Crown Victoria back. Hey yeah brother. Kendra Sunderland blocked me on Twitter. She posted that she wished there were human-sized cats. I said there are. They are called tigers and they effing murder people. She did not appreciate that apparently. Tigers are like 3 people. Okay, cougars, then they also kill people. I made a comment on a post on Weird Al Yankovic's Facebook page. A clip from White Nerdy of him and Donny Osmond. And Osmond liked the comment and, I assume accidentally, friend requested me. Ironically, I auditioned for his syndicated game show Pyramid in 2005 at the Mall of America, and I immediately took the opportunity to remind him of how he got really pissed off at me for asking for an Orange Julius when I got on stage. He never answered, and unfriended blocked me instead. Why did he get pissed about the Orange Julius comment? Wasn't blocked, but Duncan Jones, son of David Bowie, called me an insufferable bore.
Well,
lovely guy after all. Not a celebrity, but Harbor Freight.
Okay,
When I commented that their pipe inspection cameras are good for home colonoscopies, Harbor Freight certainly carries the Dane Cook version of almost every tool you'd ever need. Lot of Dane Cook references in this response section, and by a lot I mean 2. Which for Dane Cook references in a single comment section not about Dane Cook, in 2021. is a lot.
Dunkirk
Jax Taylor from Vanderpump Rules because I said he looked like coked up Ratigan from Great Mouse Detective. That was beautiful and accurate. I was starting to lose hope.
So Vanderpump Rules is like a knockoff Kardashians, and I think Jax is like the father in it, and I think he's like an architect in Beverly Hills or something. I don't know.
Oh, God.
The whole
but
crew
I don't
is
get what's Ratigan from Great Mouse. What's Great Mouse Detective?
I'm not really sure either, but I think they're
Yeah.
saying this dude looks like a rat, and he definitely has had a few facelifts and has probably been on cocaine since the 70s or 80s. So
Well, that's I don't know if that's impressive or depressing. All right, let's watch. What was that? Historians.
hold on.
What was that Historians one you were talking about?
What is the strangest thing you...
That one's actually. This one's actually kind of fucking weird.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a lot of people getting very creative in their comments too. You know, but let's watch that Historians one real quick.
Hold on,
we can come back to this.
I gotta get to the page. I'm trying to find it.
Okay, you can't just type in Reddit best of Reddit Historians or something.
I mean, I don't know if that's gonna take me out of the page. Oh wait, this search bar.
Yeah, either or. Historians or what? Here. ST. How fast can I type with one hand?
Historians of
I don't know.
Reddit.
Is this
What's
the
the
one you were talking
devastating
about, or-
I
event
think
that
so.
no one talks about?
but
The Carrington event in
I don't know.
1859. Solar flares hit the Earth,
yeah.
causing an aurora
Yeah, this is actually
borealis
the one
effect
I
to be seen all over the
Okay.
world. It lasted
This
for
is less
several
interesting,
days,
but
during
then-
which
then
time it
what's,
was
like,
reportedly
what's
bright.
the craziest, most depressing thing you know? But whatever.
They overlap because I would say that 3 of them were things that were in the book that you lent me.
Which book? The Eduardo Galeano one.
Yeah. So like,
Upside Down.
Yeah,
Primer
yeah.
for Looking Glass World. Highly recommend it.
very
Anybody
good book.
reading it?
Enough to read by at midnight. Telegraph operators reported receiving shocks and burns from the devices, and in some cases removed the batteries powering the telegraphs, as signals were being disrupted by the geomagnetic storm. After removing the batteries, the telegraphs still operated, in some cases better than they had when powered. It wasn't particularly devastating at the time, but it's estimated that if a similar storm were to hit us today, it would cripple the entire planet for potentially decades. The estimated repair cost in the US alone is measured in the trillions. In 2012,
Yeah.
a similar storm missed the Earth by 9 days.
Word.
The Andijan massacre of 2005 in Uzbekistan. It is largest mass shooting in Asia since Tiananmen Square, with over 1,000 killed and even more wounded. The Uzbek government forcefully silenced reform protests by firing into the crowd and then kicked out 90% of Westerners in the country when the US governed
Again,
UN tried to
sources
investigate.
would be good.
Terrible loss of life that rarely gets remembered because the
Not saying-
Uzbek government tried so hard to cover it up.
Like, I know nothing about this,
I'm
but
from Kazakhstan and heard about every other thing mentioned in comments but not that happened right in the neighboring country. Something that is well known but not
sources would be
that much
good.
is the Goiânia accident in Brazil, where cesium-137 was handled by many people, including children. It is regarded as the worst radioactive incident to happen in Brazil. It was a radioactive contamination accident that happened on the 13th of September, 1987 after a radiotherapy machine from an abandoned hospital was illegally stripped for parts and said parts were stolen. On the 16th of September,
I think it's some like framing there right there really quick is to like acknowledge that there's intense poverty in this region and people scrap. So
yeah.
illegally stripped for parts is literally somebody who's destitute to the extent that they literally scavenge over landfills. And in Brazil in particular, they allow for foreign countries to dump equipment. So this piece of equipment was actually from like an American hospital.
Ugh. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. So like, yeah. A little bit more depth there. Also open up the interpretation of it so you don't think it's just like,
Some random thing.
yeah.
one of the thieves opened a cesium
Yay,
capsule and then on the
capitalism.
18th of September sold it to a scrapyard. At that same night the owner of the scrapyard saw a blue glow in the machine's parts, which was the
Jeez,
cesium
can you
capsule that
imagine
had
that?
been
Be like, what
opened.
the heck?
Thinking it might be valuable he brought it to his home.
Oh no.
Over the next 3 days he invited friends and family to see the strange glowing substance. On the 21st of September one of his friends succeeded in freeing several rice-sized grains of the glowing material from the opened capsule. He then started sharing some...
Oh, good.
Okay, so when we're talking about these people as well too, like this is a little shanty town.
Well,
on the
this is
outskirts of a
1987. Yeah, this is. I mean, this is, obviously he didn't know, and people didn't know what it was. You know, this is not like this. This is a long time ago in the context of the nuclear world and experience. But that shit on silent, yo. But yeah,
Sorry.
clearly people didn't know what they were dealing with.
Some of them with friends and family. On the 25th of September the capsule was again sold to another scrapyard, although one day before the sale more dust was removed from the capsule by the scrapyard owner's brother. The brother then took the dust home and spread it on the concrete floor where later his daughter would play in, and with the dust she also ate while sitting on the floor, and dust particles fell on her food, contaminating it. One of the family members of the owner of the first scrapyard noticed that many people around her fell ill, and on the 28th of September she reclaimed the capsule from the second scrapyard and brought it to a hospital. In the morning of the 29th of September it was confirmed that the material was radioactive, and the doctors persuaded authorities to take immediate action on the matter. The city, state, and national governments were all aware of the incident by the end of the day. News of the radiation incident was broadcast on local, national, and international media. Within days, nearly 130,000 people went to local hospitals concerned that they might have been exposed. Of those, only 250 were indeed contaminated, some with radioactive residue still on their skin. 4 of those people died, including a 6-year-old girl, the one that ate food that had been contaminated by dust particles. I'm not really a proper historian, but I feel the need to mention the Bronze Age collapse. It's not as though nobody talks about it at all, but considering how catastrophic it was, it doesn't get nearly enough attention. At this time civilizations were still pretty scarce, but the Eastern Mediterranean was full of them. We can't pinpoint an exact reason, but at some point it all fell apart. The Mycenaeans? Gone. The Hittites? Gone. The Minoans? Gone. The Egyptians? Barely clinging on and having serious problems. There are many things that happened around that time in that general area that could be the culprit. Volcanoes,
they're referencing
earthquakes,
unrest in Egypt, but it's not like, I don't know, that's just
war
like
and
a
invasions from foreigners that came
that.
by boat that historians have named the Sea People because we have basically no idea where they came from. In reality, it was probably a combination of some or even all of them. Again,
sure
I'm not a proper historian by any means, but
this is what I heard. Yeah, I'm just like, what are they even talking about?
No, there is a Bronze Age collapse. Pre like Greece.
I'm not contesting, but just like just the way they, the Egyptians barely clinging on and having some serious problems. That's just a weird way to say that.
I do think at that point in time, like the Egyptians split into 2 separate states, and like there was like.
I don't think they're talking. Are they talking about that time or now?
No. They're talking about that time.
Are they sure? Because they're talking to everybody else. They said, gone. These people barely clinging on, having serious problems. It could be, they could mean then, they could mean now. I took it as them trying to mean like now. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Either way, it's just, that's what I mean. So I'm like, what do they mean by that?
Oh, no. I think he's referring to the Bronze Age period, to which the comment doesn't seem to be.
I guess. Yeah. Okay.
It is vague, though. I can see how you can misinterpret it.
Either way, I'm just all.
I don't think he's talking contemporarily.
Okay, I hope not, because that'd be a weird thing to say.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, again, I'm not a proper historian by any means, but this is what I heard. This is why sources are so important. Let's watch. What was the other one that you had out?
What is the strangest thing you've seen?
This is the one. See, if people get creative here, I'm going to be a lot less offended than if people are getting
that we cannot explain. Living in a dorm, no roommate, night before 2-hour open.
What were you going to say?
No, I mean, like, yeah, no, I hear you.
Because this is story time. History is fact time,
Totally.
Yeah.
Open book final. I put my book in the middle of the floor so I'll stumble over it on the way out. The floor has nothing else on it. In the morning it's gone. I look all over the room. Can't find it. I think I'm hysterically blind. So I feel over every inch of the floor with my hands. Nothing.
Just put it
I go
else.
get a cup of coffee and come back. Still nothing.
Your
By now
roommate,
there's only 1 hour for the test. I go anyway and do the best I can. Naturally when I get back the book is in the middle of the floor exactly where I put it. Probably a prank.
Yeah, right.
But how? I'm not that heavy a sleeper. Nobody took credit for it. Not exactly
Or you
seen,
just
but it's
forgot, or whatever.
strange. I was around 6 and on Wednesday evening I went to bed. I woke up and it was
I was
Friday.
a child,
I
and now I'm
remember
an
asking
adult.
my mom why is it Friday when yesterday it was Wednesday. She said yesterday was Thursday. Obviously, I asked her what I did on Thursday because the last thing I remember is going to sleep on Wednesday. She
Well,
named
on
some
Thursday,
activities
they-
and I remembered none of
they
that.
missed the
I never
obviously
found out
spelling.
why I don't remember the Thursday. Years ago, when my wife was pregnant with our second child and about to give
Maybe
birth,
they got bonked
my
on the
mom
head.
came to
They were
stay with
sick.
us for a few days to help take care of our oldest child. One early evening mom asked for a pen, paper and an envelope. When I gave them to her she wrote on the paper, sealed it in the envelope and gave it to me, saying put this in your pocket and don't open it, you'll know when, she said. 30 minutes later my wife announced it was time to go to the hospital. She was in labor, so we did, and about 9 hours later our second daughter was born at 3:45 am. She weighed 8 pounds, 11 ounces and was 20 inches long. This being pre-cell phone days, I called my mom from the hospital to tell her the news. She answered the phone and immediately said, "Before you say anything, open the envelope." I did. It said, "Girl 3:45 am 8 pounds,
Just
11 ounces
happen to
20
still
inches.
have that envelope
I
on
kept
you.
that paper for years. When my mom died,
Dude, that's
I
how
went to our
smart and
document
into
safe
it the
where we
mom
kept
was,
it,
man.
but it was gone.
She
I
gave it
saw
to
a
him
beer
right before
bottle
she was gonna
dropped
give
from a
birth. She was
13th
like
floor window
that
into bricks and
intuitive,
it
man.
bounced.
So
So in
stupid.
2013, I was smoking a cig with my buddy and his schizophrenic neighbor in Denton, Texas. This neighbor was the nice kind of off, never acting mean or violent, so we were actually pretty good friends. Anyway, during the middle of the cig, the
nice
neighbor
kind of
acts like he
off.
just got hit
Anyways.
with an energy wave, and runs out into the yard. He begins to start rhythmically dancing and chanting about the meteor. What I could understand was that he felt the meteor, and he said that he felt it falling, and then with a final jerk, he said the meteor had exploded. At that same time, on the other side of the world, an enormous meteor exploded over Russia. If you are wondering, no, there was
So
no
unbelievable.
advance warning. And yes, part of me does suspect that he somehow knew.
What is this
I
nonsense?
think this is just a
Totally
coincidence,
nonsense.
but
This
it's
is
weird
such
nonetheless.
bullshit. All
I
right, let's
can
watch something a
summon.
little more
I
interesting
don't know.
that we can actually like have a substantive conversation about because we're just watching this, entertaining ourselves. Look up all your favorite musicians have wealthy parents. Or do you want me to do it?
Go for it.
Yeah, because you still haven't adjusted to this keyboard.
No, and I probably never will.
You should. It's better for your wrists.
Just use a standing desk.
Favorite musicians have wealthy parents. Let's see if it's actually on. I don't know if it's actually on YouTube. I saw it on Le Fish Book, and I'm not seeing it here.
Wasn't that first one?
This one? No, it's like a little music clip. It's kind of funny actually. Let's see if we can find it. Probably not. No, it's like a 40-second music video. All right, well never mind. Scratch that. Let's see what else I got. What else I sent myself? Federal court strikes down Georgia bill requiring contractors to pledge not to boycott Israel. That was good because that was some bullshit. And oh, this is kind of funny. I don't know. Do you like Simon Pegg?
Yeah.
Look up
Yeah.
when you take your job too seriously, or no, spaced, sacked from the comic book store. Probably just sacked from the comic book store will be enough. Here, I'll do it. Seriously? How are you serious?
Yes.
All right. Spaced. It's this movie, but I'm not seeing the clip. Wow. Swing and a miss. You want to try and find something? Well, let me see. Scroll it off. Golden Retriever and deer have been best friends for 11 years. It was actually very sweet. But, Paul Mooney passed since we last recorded. Rest in peace and power. iconic comic. He wrote for Richard Pryor, was a stand-up and a writer, did a whole bunch of stuff, but that's what he's best known for. And then also, obviously, his appearances on Chappelle's Show. We should watch. Yeah, maybe
Hollywood
not
is
this
crazy.
one.
First they had the Mexican
Hold on,
with
what
Brad
was his
Pitt, and now they got
Ask a Black Man or something like that with Paul Mooney? Is that, what was it called on the Chappelle Show?
That'll be in this probably. It's like,
yeah, but there's a couple of, I don't know. We can watch this, I guess. It's the best of, I guess, but I feel like I watched this and was all like, eh. I think it's like Ask a Black Guy, right? Yeah, Ask a Black Dude. I don't know about deleted scenes, but whatever. This might be interesting, actually.
Why can you?
Wait, what are you doing?
I'll go back to it. Get the actual clip and then read
All right, full screen it. But rest in
know,
peace and power, Paul Mooney.
I'm glad to see that there's so
Richard
many
Pryor show
different
was brilliant.
kinds of people here. You
Chappelle
guys
show
can't
is
see it at
very
home. At
much
home,
riffing on
in the
Pryor
wide
show.
shot, it just looks like a bunch of black.
The Black President sketch that Chappelle famously did, first Black President sketch, that was done. That literal same sketch was done by Richard Pryor.
Oh, we should look
Pryor
that
show
up, too.
like 20 odd years before.
People. But it's not. It's a patchwork, a multi-ethnic, multicultural patchwork. Now, America is the same way. And I know a lot of you white people at home might have had a feeling like you have questions for your black friends that you want to ask them, but you're afraid to ask. You don't want to alienate yourself or maybe get beat the fuck up. Well, I want to promote conversation and dialogue, so I went on the streets and gave people the opportunity to ask all the questions that made them so curious. And I got comedian Paul Mooney to answer these questions for him. If you don't know Paul Mooney,
The white people were like, "Who's Paul
he was a
Mooney?"
writer for Richard Pryor for many years, and some say one of the best comedians working today. Well, one thing's for damn sure, he's an unofficial sociologist.
He could be a real good
Ladies and
surprise,
gentlemen,
but
it's time for Ask a Black Dude.
at the same time, most comedians. So. Why is it reversed?
Can black guys jump high?
This is like,
Yeah,
see
black
this
people
one?
jump high. You got to jump. Got to do something when you're running from the police.
I ask you why you
It's
walk
fine.
like
It's only
this?
another minute.
Almost all you black guy. Why?
Why you act like in Black people walk like that because we
Not
have style,
age well.
we got flavor, we got rhythm. I mean, the black man in America is the most copied man on this planet, bar none. Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. How about that question? Cal Channon just admitted she was a nigga. The rest of them need to break down and admit it too.
Yeah, why we black people like to smoke so much weed? Can you tell me why?
Well, I have a question for that nigga. Well, where are your teeth, nigga? Black niggas like to party. They have that in their blood. And sometimes they can go overboard, and it's real sad. And don't ask me about drugs. Ask Whitney and Bobby. Don't ask me.
I think the whole thing was flipped.
Was what?
I think the whole thing was flipped.
Yeah, it's like, so yeah, cancel the autoplay. That actually what he said there about like the black man in America being the most copied person in the world. I think there's a lot to that. And he said everyone wants to, be black, but nobody wants to be black. That's something that that's a phrase that comes to mind frequently in different contexts. But yeah, hold on, go back to the deleted scenes. Because I say the deleted scenes, we don't gotta watch all 12 minutes, but this is gonna be interesting.
Why can you never stay faithful to one girl?
Well, that's the giveaway right there. Girl. A black man wants a woman. He doesn't want a girl. And maybe that's why
See what
her
I'm saying?
man's not
That's like
faithful to
something.
her. If she grow up and become a woman, he could be faithful to her. But that's back in the day in Africa in the beginning when the white man went over there and saw the black man naked with his 12 wives. Because black men are used to having a lot of women. He saw us with, 12 wives,
Again,
so he ran back to
it's
America
not
and made a law.
The most
If you marry
historically
more than one
accurate
person,
or
I think they
informed
call
thing
it bigamy.
sometimes.
And you have to break it down. Bigger
But I don't
than
know.
me.
I didn't quite catch that.
Can I ask you to move your chair for me a little bit?
I always find like the behind the scenes and like the deleted footage to be very interesting because it's very revealing of just like how staged everything is, and in this case I don't think it's scripted. Obviously, I think he's going off the cuff. But
I like how they have
it's
the green
interesting.
screen with that display in the background.
I
It's
just want to know,
obviously
why do
not
black men only make the right pimps? Why
No,
are
I
black
don't
men
think- I
only
think that
suitable
is
to be
very
pimps?
Maybe
No,
not.
No,
I don't know.
look at it when he moves.
That's already very funny.
Maybe. I don't know. It could be, though. It could just be the
Black
lighting.
men are suitable
I don't
to be
know that
pimps.
it's a green screen.
Well, you should ask the white woman. I
Lighting.
mean, that's the question to ask the white woman because he seems to be doing a lot of pimping with the white lady. So the question's kind of reverse. But the biggest pimp I've ever known was a white pimp, and he drove a Volkswagen. And he was pimping everybody. I think you guys call it the president.
I would say the behind the scenes footage is the best. I think they're really in a studio. I don't think that's a green screen.
Might be right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Like I said, I think it's just he's looking at those monitors.
Yeah, why we black people like to smoke so much weed? Can you tell me why?
I think.
Well, I have a question for that nigga. Well, where are your teeth, nigga?
Anyway.
Because that's funny.
Well,
when I
we
see
don't
black
gotta
people with no
watch all
teeth, it cracks me up. But I think black people like to smoke weed because they're so depressed about not working. So they just get a blunt and try to get high and forget. But it's very sad because most people that I know that smoke weed, I don't do drugs. Most of that I know, they forget a lot. And I love that commercial on marijuana that used to.
And by not working, I think my inference of what he means is not getting hired because of being black. But
beyond, when they came out and said about your memory, said I smoke it and I don't forget. And then what was I talking about? That some funny stuff. You know, I guess it all depends on what kind of herb you speak. I mean, I'm not into any kind of drugs, you know, so I don't have an answer for that. I think black people just like to party. They have that in their blood. And sometimes they can go overboard, and it's real sad. And don't ask me about drugs. Ask Whitney and Bobby. Don't ask me.
I mean, obviously, like every human is like 99.8% genetically the same. So the idea that anybody has something in their blood is like intrinsically, it's a logically fallible concept. Like it's illogical, as it were, or it's just untrue. It's
well, I would say that like
physical reality. But I think maybe like people say that, and I think 9 times out of 10 when people say that, and unless they're just being like blatantly racist, I think they mean like it's like a cultural reference, you know, or something like that. But which is not to say it's right or accurate, but I think that's what people are trying to say when they say that most of the time. Hopefully,
I don't think we really have to defend him. I think he's an older dude, and I think he has like some weird thoughts of like race,
some dated, which a lot of people, but at the
but
same
that doesn't
time,
invalidate everything he says, though. Like just because he has,
I didn't say that. I'm not trying to say that.
I'm saying that.
Yeah. Of course not.
Like, but at the same time, like, yeah, no, definitely. I
But-
do disagree with you, though.
But
I
being,
do think people
but being
are,
older doesn't necessarily. It's not a pass for having a dated outlook per se. Just generally speaking, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, no. Thinking that there's genetic traits associated with any races is fundamentally incorrect.
Well, because there's only one human race.
Yeah, genetically speaking, we're just far too similar. And plus,
no, it's Homo sapiens. Just technically speaking, there's only one human race. There's no such thing as different races. That's
no, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no genetic differentiation. Like,
that's bullshit. It's the whole social construct. What were you gonna say though?
No, just that.
Yeah.
But like addiction and stuff, like, yeah, it is kind of like there is a hereditary component. It's not like pathological, but like certain people are more susceptible to different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like, but that's a result of like sustained patterns of behavior over time, whereby people in previous generations in your, in your familial like bloodline or whatever were consuming things and had an effect on DNA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't even know if it's.
I read some article. I don't know if that's true.
There may be a component.
It was a long time I read something along those lines.
Dude, I'm sure there's a social component to it and a biological component to it, but like I don't think it's anything more than an impetus. It's never. It's never.
It's propensity. It's not like a guaranteed outcome.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
there's no 100% roll of the dice.
Like you said, greater susceptibility or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, like for example,
no association between those greater susceptibilities, madness, anything like that. Like
no.
Any genetic trait you can think of, like between races, it's like.
Well,
there's
again, between ethnic groups, not races, because there's no such thing as different races.
Yeah, and I guess for the point of using that word right now is that there's no distinguishable differentiation.
But I'm just saying, like, but I mean, like, let's just not use that word because it's not a real word. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I see what you're saying, but like, there's no such thing as different races of people. You know, and so like when we say race, what we really mean is different ethnicities or different like regional groups or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's totally different than race. Like, there's no such thing as different races of people. There's only Homo sapiens.
Yes.
So I'm just saying. Anyways. So instead of races, I think it would be more accurate to say ethnicities. You're talking about like.
No, because I'm specifically speaking of the categorization of people by the basis of race. And I'm specifically at this moment making a point.
I lost you there. Then would reiterate what you're saying?
Like I'm speaking as like thinking of like race as a meaningful form of categorization in relation to like statements like that. Like it's you can't do it. Yes, you're right. Race is fundamentally made up and it's nonsense, and the scientific evidence like proves it, and that's what I'm saying. But like I am speaking about. Yeah, I don't
Hold
know.
on, that's what I'm saying. I think I lost you. Well, that's what I'm trying to get back to where
the whole concept of race has a false scientific start, and it's popularly accepted. So, like, to still say the statement in terms of it, to like destructure it, I think is important because
I'm confused. What do you mean by destruct? To say the word races in a way to that's where I'm just like hold on a second. Like, what are you saying?
Because I'm speaking at the level of using it as a form of categorization.
I thought you were talking about. I'm lost. I really have no idea what you were referencing at this point. To be honest,
fundamentally, the concept of race that you can use races to categorize people.
Right.
There's like zero biological
evidence behind that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by when we say something is a social construct. It's based on patterns of behavior over long periods of time.
Yeah.
And,
law. No, it's 100% like
that.
bullshit and culturally.
De jure and de facto, right? De jure meaning by law and de facto meaning by practice, and race has come about through a combination of de jure and de facto, sort of like social, cultural, economic practices.
I do think it's important to mention that like there is like also a level of it to where like Victorian science like validated it in like an objective reality.
Pseudoscience.
Yeah, no, totally. Like phrenology like was a real thing. Like there's a
There actually we should look that up real quick. Look up MTV Decoded Caucasian or race or something like that. Just MTV Decoded race. It's a great little video. People should check out the 1619 project. We should link to it if we can, if we remember to do that. But the 1619 project was at the New York Times, I think, like sort of like reporting and research that they did on the history of sort of like slavery and how race as a social construct came about as a thing to justify sort of this like quote unquote race-based chattel slavery in the United States. No, it's not that. I think it's the word Caucasian. I think specifically about the word Caucasian. Which is bullshit, because people think Caucasian means white, but it's not. Here we go. This is the one. I played this in class.
Have you ever wondered why?
Because students can, relate to it. All right. Have you seen this before?
Probably not.
This is good. You should check it out. It's interesting.
Have you ever wondered why we call white people Caucasian? The answer is surprisingly, heck, you know what this show is about. Most people know the definition of Caucasian as a white-skinned person of European descent, right? Not really. Outside of America, white people generally aren't seen as Caucasian at all. Why? Because almost every country has a different definition for Caucasian. A person from the Caucasus region, which in case you're wondering is actually right over here, with parts of Russia, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and northern Turkey. So why has Caucasian become synonymous with all white people? Well, buckle your seatbelts because things are about to get pretty racist. A century before Hitler's rise to power, there was another German man who believed white people were the perfect race, Christoph Meiners, who was one of the earliest adopters of scientific racism. Now hold on, because it's about to get really unscientific. Meiners believed that Caucasians, aka the actual people from that region between Russia and Turkey, had, quote, the whitest, most blooming, and most delicate skin. In fact, he viewed every non-Caucasian race as ugly, inferior, immoral, and animal-like. He also believed people from the Middle East and Asia had little intelligence and were predispositioned to be evil. Then German scientist Johann Blumenbach added to this emerging definition. Blumenbach believed that the Caucasus region was home to the most beautiful race of men, the people of Georgia. And what made the Georgian people so beautiful? Well, this creepy guy had a huge collection of human skulls.
Which again was when you said the phrenology.
Yeah.
Made me think of this, right?
Yeah, they were measuring people's heads because they falsely assumed that there was a correlation between brain size and intelligence.
Then racially, they use that to justify a racist hierarchy and all the bullshit that came with it.
Their sample sizes were so small that there was no real data to begin with.
Yeah, somehow not surprised. But yes, motherfuckers really died on this hill. But there's also a really great Roots album called Phrenology.
And out of the 245, the Georgian skull was his favorite. Did I mention that he had a collection of 245 human skulls? So this weirdo, using no science at all, decided that all of humanity...
You have like one from each place, and you're like comparing one. Like,
I mean, I'm sure you have
where
multiple.
are you sourcing skulls from?
I mean, this is the 18th century we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Standards were a little looser than they are today.
Oh, much looser.
know,
On top of that, too, most of these guys' understanding of a lot of these places comes from travel guides that, like, sometimes weren't even written by people that had ever been there.
Yeah, frequently, I would say.
Yeah, they would just take, like, the king's ransom and go to, like, the neighboring country and, like, party for, like, a year or two and then come back and, like, be like, yeah, here's your scientific book.
The king's ransom.
Like, I don't know. Everything back then was fucking done under the fucking, like,
auspices
monarchy.
Of the crown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way you did anything. That's
yeah,
the only people
dude,
who had any money to finance any kind of real travel or anything. Unless you're like, you're either like a poor priest moving around, or you're like, or you're a traveling merchant or trader of some sort, But again, most people stayed pretty close to home.
No, and on top of this, all this there's a
yeah.
sick reference back to Kant on this, where like these guys all did all of this stuff because in Kant, it's like you must treat other beings with autonomy. So a lot of this rolled back into them wanting to justify like, oh, these people shouldn't have autonomy, and then we can justify our enlightened society with systemic racism.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a deep dive, but regardless,
it's pretty sick. Like,
they're
literally trying to
they're
like
just bullshitting is what they're doing,
so they can believe they could still go to heaven with their weird Christian shit. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
must have come from this region. Spoiler alert, we didn't. He also decided that all light-skinned people from Europe belong to the same race, Caucasian. Then he split the rest of the world into 4 other races, which he referred to as degenerate forms of God's original creation. Sounds like a fun guy. Those other races were Mongolian, the yellow race, Malayan, the brown race, Ethiopian, the black race, and American, the red race. Blumenbach's racial classifications went on to be adopted by the newly formed United States, because of course it did. It helped our founding fathers justify things like slavery and selective immigration quotas.
And taking the entire continent eventually away from the indigenous inhabitants.
Because if you don't have legal systems that are complex and justified, and like obviously if you don't document things on paper like us civilized,
hold on a second. Yeah, well that was also, I mean, both those things lies.
Oh, totally. The Iroquois nation had a complex legal system.
Well,
that was
pretty much every tribe or group, or whatever, like society had
self-regulating
legal
functions,
system that would, I think it's safe to say, as more or less complex as any you would find anywhere else in the world. It's this false notion that like somehow like law, the rule of law in a society and blah 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 somehow originated in this Greco-Roman bullshit. That's one of the biggest like white supremacist tropes out there. Is it like democracy somehow? The notion of democracy somehow started in like.
I think the best part of that lie too is that
tradition, and that's the whole foundation of Western society. That dipshits like Shapiro and Carlson, and all these a-holes are fucking popping off. It's a fantasy. It's a violent, misogynistic, often patriarchal fantasy.
2 seconds, because the reason it's wrong is that like when the Byzantine Empire split, right?
Well, besides it just being totally fabricated, but yeah, go ahead.
When the Byzantine Empire split, all of the classics were of the Middle East only, and we only found them again upon contact with the Middle East again during like early colonization. Like
again, their contact was never lost or broken. You're talking about pre-post like Crusades or something. You're talking about the European Enlightenment, basically just being them catching up on like 500, 1,000 years of what is it like? Afro-Indo-Persian, Middle Eastern sort of like scientific research.
Like there's a reason they call it the Dark Ages, and it's because we were dumb fucks over here not paying attention to any of that shit.
It wasn't that it was paying attention. It wasn't paying attention to. It said it was actively suppressed by things like monarchies and in the Dark Ages. It's actively suppressed by, I think, my understanding, like collaboration between, monarchies and the church. You know what I'm saying? Because like, knowledge is that what you want people to be able to actually read this shit. Whoa. Then they might start, really wondering about the validity, as if they're not already, of they're going to be able to really fight and question the validity of the whole, rule by divine right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Among other things.
Yeah, no. But no, like
Because it's hot. My head is sweaty.
There was no Dark Ages anywhere else. The Middle East,
Well, I mean,
India.
everybody had, I think, their own period, right? But these other like Western Europe, Western Eurasia was sort of on the like it took a while for things to get there for a variety of reasons. I think geography being part of it too, and then sort of conflict and blah blah blah. Yes, no, I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors.
You're probably right. I would say that like
that's my general understanding. Anyway.
I guess the time periods I'm talking about, like particularly.
When are you talking about?
Probably post like.
And make sure you're still in the frame. You're kind of you're leaning out a bit.
Oh, my bad.
Got to be mindful of that stuff. People can see your smiling face.
I think I'm actually cool. Yeah,
I think you're pretty good.
Well,
you did just come in a little bit.
No, that like there's progress in mathematics all along the people who traded on the Silk Road. So you're going like pretty much the whole southern side of the Mediterranean, and then there's like this is all the Roman Catholic Church, and then the Roman Catholic Church falls, and then like these people all basically sit around fighting over who is the Roman.
Well, what time period are you talking about? So you're talking about the fracturing of, because Roman Catholics like Rome fractured. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like
the fracturing of Rome, because like that's I wouldn't even necessarily call that. But yeah. Okay. So when are you talking about? When are you talking about?
I think that's around the.
Because that's in the early hundreds.
Yeah, it is post the Greeks and everybody though, and like
absolutely, because those fools we're talking like
But like that's what I'm saying though, is that like the Egyptians, like the whole of the Byzantine Empire, which is like the bigger part of the Mediterranean, is still like practicing medicine and mathematics and advancing these things while we're like doing metaphysics of how many angels can fit on ropes while subjugating people to feudalism.
Right.
Trying to murder the pagans.
It was it took a while for sort of like a lot of mathematical.
There's no direct lineage
scientific
though. Like we literally
like
eradicated it and then came back to it. Like
what do you mean direct lineage?
Of the Greeks to your Western Europe. Like that is just bullshit to bring it all back in.
Yeah, no. The Greco-Roman thing was always a Mediterranean thing. And so that Western European nations came into the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries to justify sort of this like this racist hierarchy and supremacy and stuff like that. This notion, all this bullshit they developed to really justify again race-based chattel slavery in places like the Caribbean, United States, Brazil. They laid claim to this, like they claimed to be a false like direct descendant
Is there a part of
Western Europeans are the ones who fucking we're all like it was like it was the barbarians who overran Rome. Those barbarians were from Western Europe, so it's just a historical notion. I see what you're
entirely
saying. Yeah, it was actively like you said, actively cut off and suppressed. Were you gonna say something else, or should we?
No, let's
finish this.
But that was a long time ago, right? So why does the word Caucasian persist while other old-timey racial categories like Mongoloid and Negroid have disappeared? Well, there seems to be a few reasons that are a little intertwined. In America, there's a long legal history of the word. The Supreme Court has actually used Caucasian in 64 cases, including one from 1928 that is key. During the 1920s, only free whites, or Caucasians, were allowed to become naturalized citizens.
Until literally the Alien Sedition Act, all this stuff, from jump, this country said you can only be a citizen if you're a free white male. And at that point in time, free meant property owning, really. Well, in many ways, but anyways. And then it wasn't until the end of the Civil War that non-property owning white males even got the right to vote. Or really by 1860. And then at the end of the Civil War, free black males got the right to vote on paper, although that didn't really happen until the 1960s. And then nobody, and it wasn't until after the Civil War, was it 14th Amendment, established birthright citizenship, unless you're, if you're born here, you could be a citizen, but if you weren't born here, then you got to be a free white person up until, 1928. And it wasn't until, I think the 1920s or 30s that Native American people were allowed to be citizens, unless anyways, there's a lot of history there.
1928, Bhagat Singh Thind, an Indian man who fought for the U.S. in World War I, tried to become a U.S. citizen by arguing that many anthropologists defined Indians as Caucasians. After a major legal battle, the Supreme Court decided that Caucasian really only meant white Europeans. This decision legally codified the modern American definition of Caucasian as whites with European ancestry. Why else?
Again, it's just
You don't exactly know for sure, but one reason
arbitrary
I think
standard.
Caucasian is likely stuck around is because of its power. Language is one of the most systematic, subtle, and significant vehicles for spreading racial ideology, and Caucasian implies that white people are different from other racial groups in America. It makes it seem like white people are somehow connected in a way that's not just based on the pigmentation of their skin. It even sounds kind of scientific, even though it's really not. So were you surprised by the history of the word Caucasian? Sound off in the comments below, and we'll see you next week right here on
No,
Geek It.
and
Isn't that interesting though? I was just all like, yeah.
it's the same thing with Aryan though. Like, there's no direct correlation
Yeah.
between.
But people don't use Aryan the way they use Caucasian stuff.
Oh, white supremacists do.
But people in general
Oh,
society
yeah.
does not use Aryan that way. Yeah, white supremacists. But again, it's a total fantasy. Right? Yeah, there's no correlation between that term and what they take it to mean, what the kind of meaning they give it, and history. It's just, it's literally it's a violent fantasy that translates to horrific brutality in real life. And that's what's crazy. It's just some made up bullshit. But you know, it's like she said, there's power in words, you know.
The more white people take genetic tests, the more they'll realize that they're either like not as white as they thought they were, or that they're Neanderthals, literally.
Yeah, but there's a lot of problems with those genetic tests.
Oh,
too,
I'm sure.
You know what I'm saying? So we're almost at an hour. Do you want to do like one more video real quick, or?
Yeah, let's do something fun.
Sure. I
Newsy?
mean, I don't know. There's yeah. Wonder what unicorn. Do you ever look at Unicorn Riot?
No, I feel like every time you go to the page now, you don't pick something.
What's
You're
that?
gonna pick something this time?
Sure. Maybe, although they're news. They're not like, it's not going to be feel good stuff. We're funny. But they're always there. I find that they're often on the front lines of things that I find interesting. So.
Oh, hold on. I had something I wanted to watch.
All right, what you got?
How to look it up though.
What? Oh. With you sent me one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Mike Judge Presents thing? That's interesting. So basically it's like animated conversations with real people about like music history and stuff, right? About like, you know, music people.
Oh, that would explain why I found it on some weird Korean thing. Because it was ripped from like a real TV show.
All right, which one are we watching?
I like the Johnny Paycheck one.
That one was interesting. This
I
one
don't know
you
if
sent
this
me.
is the right one.
Oh, Patsy Cline. That'd be interesting.
They do all the old Nashville dudes, like girls.
Yeah. That's interesting. Oh, there's
Hello?
a few.
You ever hear of this guy, Johnny Paycheck?
No, you didn't send me this.
No? You don't like country music, do you? You think it's corny and twangy and kind of stupid?
Racist.
Well, you could be right, but it's always good to keep an open mind. You know, Johnny
Let's not say
Paycheck
that.
here sold
There's a lot
over
of not
10 million
racist
records. That's on par with
guys
people like
in the country.
NWA and Gwen Stefani. In the early 90s, once
Move
I was
the mouse
watching
over
TV,
there. Vargas
and
away.
there was all this hubbub on the news about NWA and gangster rap and how it was just too violent. I got tired of watching this because I actually like NWA and gangster rap, so I switched over to the country music channel where I saw Johnny Paycheck being interviewed. And he had just gotten out of jail for shooting a guy, like he really shot a guy. And I thought, why isn't anybody worried about Johnny Paycheck? Why isn't Connie Chung picking on him?
Hey, Sharon
He's
Ray.
got a good point. Mike Cable keeps moving the mouse.
You're my life.
For those who don't know, Johnny Paycheck wrote the classic "Take This Job and Shove It," which is really one of my favorite songs.
Dude, the Judge Kennedy's version as well.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. We should watch it at some point. After
We're gonna find
Wish I was
the
half the man
DK version.
you been a wife.
Johnny Paycheck was a dirt poor kid who pulled himself out of poverty with his music, became a working class hero, and almost killed himself and one other person that we know of in the process. And he looks a lot like Charles Manson.
Are those all like famous bus
Greenfield,
drivers?
Ohio.
I think those are all
birthplace
his
of the
band names,
detachable
dude. I just
horse
don't
collar,
know anything about
Johnny
this music.
Paycheck, and these three guys, the Addams brothers. Don, Gary, and Arnie
Paycheck's backup band for nearly 2 decades.
The first time I met Johnny Paycheck, I was like 4 years old. One of my brothers had him under a tree kicking his butt.
We just hung out together because we lived in the same neighborhood in the country. I remember one time when he came to the house, he brought a guitar with him, and he sat in that kitchen and sang and sang and sang.
A couple of years after that, me and Gary got in a talent show in Greenfield, and we needed a guitar player, and so he played guitar for us, and we lost.
Lost to a woman at pantomime. So that was rough to take. Of course, at that time, he was Donnie Lytle.
Donnie Lytle.
He had several different nicknames that a lot of people would call him.
In his youth, a lot of people referred to him as Hubcap Donnie.
He was a hubcap thief. Him stealing hubcaps, they forgot to mention that had the car with him.
Yeah.
He had a little criminal element to him.
When he was in Greenfield one time, he went downtown and got drunk, and he went and broke into a car lot.
He seen the car out there on the lot that he liked, so he went in and found the key for it, took it for a drive, and didn't like it, so he brought it back, went in and got another one. This time he got the whole keyboard.
Stole all the keys.
Got him another car, took off in it. Took it down to Paint Creek.
And took all the keys and threw them in the creek.
He got a little trouble over that.
Back in them days, there was a Johnny Dollar and
Johnny Cash and Johnny West.
Donnie's manager, figuring he'd
we should,
cash
hold on, we
in
should,
on the Johnny
we can save these for next
called
time.
an obscure Polish
Just keep it at an
boxer,
hour.
Johnny
and but we should look up the song.
From
the original
that point
and the cover
on,
version.
I mean, he totally believed he was.
Once he got out of jail, he was gone.
He took off for Nashville.
Down in Music City, Paycheck scraped by as a backup musician, playing with everyone from Porter Wagner to George Jones.
He was kind of like a country music.
Yeah.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more.
It's a major honky
Woman
tonk.
done left.
Dude, I like this era of country more than
I was
anything.
working for.
As long as they weren't patently racist, I just have to say a lot of them weren't. And plenty of them weren't, but a lot of them
You'll
weren't.
go back and show yourself some Willie.
Oh, for sure. But he's the exception in a lot of ways. And again, you know, we're talking about a very racist country, so, which is not to take away from like the genre itself, because there's plenty of you know, like, diverse array of country musicians, stuff like that. But yeah, predominantly the United States has historically been white and racist.
Had a lot of bills to pay.
I didn't know about non-United States country music. I thought this was something we had.
I think there is, but like I think there's different forms of country music kind of around the world, if that makes sense. But like in terms of this kind of country music, this is definitely like in southwestern U.S.
From Tennessee to Texas, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's
well, in the Midwest too, I should say, but like originally, you know what I'm saying? You take it back to like the Ozarks and bluegrass and like, you know, this stuff like that.
Take this job and shove
Again, there's always been diverse, you know, black and white practitioners, but the white ones got all the record deals.
That foreman, he's a regular dog.
So we got a sense. Nice. I didn't know DK did this.
The album cover for this one. Just love
Take
it.
this job and shove it. I ain't working no more. Come with it, get the call, the beat, got it moving forward. You see that guy stay away, just walking out the door. Take this job and shove it. I ain't working no more.
See, what's funny is if you ever get to see Joe DJ,
There's some great old country music, man. Hank Williams, the original. Can't vouch for his kids.
they got real racist, right? Like,
A lot racist. I think the third. I'm not sure which one it was, but one of his kids is just really douchebag. Yeah, this is a good note to end on. I think we're done for now, yeah. All right. Hasta la vista.